I opened my pay stub that morning and felt my stomach drop. $1.10. An hour. Not a glitch, not a typo. Right there in bold, under my name. Rick Dalton, lead ops technician. I blinked, thinking maybe my screen hadn't loaded right. But then my phone buzzed. Message from Greg in maintenance. "Bro, is this real?" I didn't answer. I couldn't. I just stared at it, like it was some kind of joke I hadn't figured out yet. My name's Rick Dalton. I'm 44 years old. I live in Clarksville, Tennessee. And for the last 14 years, I've been the first guy in and the last guy out at North Track Logistics. I handled scheduling, equipment flow, route conflicts, vendor issues, you name it. If a truck blew a tire in Kansas or missed a pickup in Tulsa, I knew before anyone in dispatch did. And now they were paying me less than a soda machine. Quick note. Before we start, how's your day going and where are you joining from? I knew exactly what this was. Winston Grayer, the CEO, didn't want to just cut costs. He wanted me gone, and he wanted everyone to see it happen. All 2,200 employees. Because 6 months ago, his golden boy Jay Grayer showed up with his smug little smirk and a fake title, Operations Advisor. That clown wore a Rolex and sneakers that cost more than my truck. Walked in like he was God's gift to logistics and started throwing out buzzwords he read on LinkedIn. He didn't know squat. He shadowed me for maybe a week, asked a few questions like he was doing a school project, then spent the rest of his time bragging to HR about culture upgrades. And now my paycheck looked like a punchline. My pride, that was the real cost. But the worst part? It wasn't even about me. My mom's oxygen tank rentals weren't optional. And my son Owen just got accepted into a welding program, $9,000 due by fall. I didn't flip my desk. I didn't storm into Winston's office. I sat there, quiet, still, because I saw it clear as day. This wasn't an accident. This was a setup. Winston didn't want to fire me and deal with the blowback. He wanted to humiliate me until I walked out on my own, so he could hand my position to his kid and call it a transition. What he didn't know, I wasn't walking, not yet, because I built this place from the back end forward. No manuals, no SOPs, just me and a dirty keyboard. And that morning I looked at that $1.10 like a man looks at a loaded gun sitting on a desk. Then I folded the pay stub, stood up, and walked straight to my station. I was loading routing reports when the alert popped up on my screen. Mandatory company stream, 11 a.m. CST. Attendance required, no subject line, no agenda, just that. At 10:59, screens flicked on across the building, break rooms, control booths, warehouse tablets propped up on toolboxes. Everyone watching, everyone waiting. Winston's face came up like a game show host, grinning hard, wearing that blue pinstripe suit like it still meant something. "Good morning, North Track team," he said, all charm. "We're ushering in a new era." And just like that, I knew. I'm proud to introduce our new Director of Ground Operations, Jay Grayer. He stepped into frame with his plastic smile and shiny wristwatch, trying to look humble but loving every damn second. "Thanks, Dad," he said first, then laughed like it was some cute accident. "I mean, Winston." People chuckled, mostly the ones who had something to lose. Jay leaned on the podium and started in like he'd been practicing in the mirror. North Track has a proud history, but let's be honest, we've been stuck in some old ways. We've got systems from the 90s still running behind the curtain. Then he looked right at me, right into the camera. "No offense, Rick, but it's time we modernize." A couple folks clapped, not excited, just scared. I saw Carla in dispatch shift in her seat. Jimmy from loading looked away like he didn't want to be caught watching. I didn't blink, didn't twitch. Jay kept rolling. "We're bringing in automated load balancing, AI-based route corrections, and a new integrated payroll system. No more spreadsheets, no more human bottlenecks." He said bottlenecks like it was a bad word, like people were the problem. I wanted to stand up and say, "Hey, I built those systems when you were still bombing geometry quizzes and lying about it to your dad." But I didn't. I just watched. He wrapped it all up with a smug grin. "We're not in the 90s anymore." And that was it. Winston clapped first, like he was trying to start a wave. Nobody followed. The stream cut. The room went quiet. Back at my station, I sat down and reopened my dashboard. Alerts were already coming in. Small stuff. Schedule overlaps, mistagged inventory. I'd normally clear those in 5 minutes. But I didn't touch a thing. Because here's what Jay didn't know, what Winston never gave a damn about. Those systems weren't running on magic. They weren't automated miracles. They were running because I made them run. Because every time a patch broke something, I fixed it. Every time 2 shipments got double booked out of Nashville, I rerouted by hand. Every time the so-called I misread weight classes and jammed up the forklifts, I patched it with my own rules. Quietly, efficiently, and now? Now I wasn't lifting a finger. I didn't call anyone, didn't warn them. I let the little cracks stay cracks. I knew how fast they'd spread. Jay thought he was flipping a switch and changing the world. What he did was walk into a machine he didn't understand and start yanking wires, and I was done catching the sparks. Jay moved into my chair like he'd earned it. Didn't even ask me what half the dashboards meant. Just leaned back with his phone in one hand and scrolled like he was checking fantasy football scores. I still had full access, same credentials, same permissions. They never thought to lock me out. That first red alert came in from Ohio around noon. Dock scheduling mismatch out of Toledo. Easy fix, used to take me 5 minutes. Reassign one trailer, shift a load window, done. I let it blink. Jay glanced at it, laughed. Ohio's always whining, he said to nobody. Probably a driver issue. Then he hit dismiss. I turned back to my screen and watched it turn from red to gray. No action taken, no patch applied. 2 days later, overtime clashes started rolling in from Utah. Flagged as duplicate shift entries. I knew what that meant. System couldn't reconcile clock-ins between overnight and swing crews. I used to run those cross-checks by hand. Now, I let them pile up. Jay showed them to a junior tech. "I'm more bugs," he muttered. "This system's garbage." The kid asked if he should pull logs. Jay waved him off. "Nah, I'm not here to babysit numbers. We've got AI now." That's when I knew we were heading for a cliff. Because North Track didn't run on AI. It ran on rules, on decades of manual patches layered on top of each other. It ran on knowing what a mismatched trailer ID really meant. It ran on memory, my memory. The AI? That thing only worked because I fed it the right triggers. It wasn't thinking, it was just parroting patterns I set years ago. Jay thought it was alive, but it was just a puppet with no one pulling the strings. The silence started creeping in around me. People noticed, but no one said anything out loud. HR still sent out PEP emails about exciting changes and system upgrades. Operations folks whispered in break rooms, trying to figure out why truckloads were getting double booked or why invoices were hitting twice. Jay's answer was always the same. "Outdated framework," he'd say. "We're phasing it out." He wasn't phasing out anything. He was ignoring the slow collapse and hoping the software would magically fix itself. I saw the numbers shifting. I saw shipments misrouted, timing windows missed, fuel costs creeping up from reassignments, things that never showed up on his clean little charts. I kept my arms folded and my lips sealed. One afternoon, he turned to me, completely clueless. "Hey, Rick, did we ever automate trailer load weights for the Northeast region?" I stared at him. "No." He waited for more. I didn't give it. "Okay," he muttered, turning back to his screen like I was the problem. That was the last thing he asked me. From then on, he clicked and guessed, ignored the yellow flags, and dismissed the red ones. I watched him click through every failure like it was a pop-up ad. And the funny thing was, no one told him to stop, not even Winston. They thought I'd quit in silence, like a good little soldier. But I was right there, sitting, watching, waiting, and letting gravity do what it does best when you knock out the supports. Friday rolled in, hot and stale. The kind of afternoon where the AWC struggles and everyone's just waiting to punch out. I was at my desk, same spot I'd been all week, pretending to review order routing from the Northwest hub. I wasn't touching anything, just watching. Jay came marching in like a quarterback on homecoming week, cocky as ever. "Rick," he called out, loud enough for everyone nearby to hear. "Watch and learn, man." Gonna fix all this mess with one move? I didn't answer. Just turned my chair a few inches and looked. He waved over 2 guys from IT, Benny and Travis. Fresh out of college, both of them, smart enough to be dangerous, dumb enough to believe Jay knew what he was doing. They stood behind him like backup dancers while he clicked into the main ops dashboard. The thing was lit up like Times Square. Shift clashes, duplicate payrolls, routing conflicts, docking mismatches, red alerts everywhere. Looked like a system on fire, because it was. Jay sat down in my chair, cracked his knuckles like a gamer, and grinned. "Let's end this." He moved fast, like he was doing something heroic. Clicked through the system preferences, scrolled right past all the built-in warnings, and hovered over a button labeled Auto Approve All. That button had been there for years. I never touched it. No one in their right mind would. It wasn't a feature. It was a trap door. Designed for emergencies, total system lockdown situations like hurricanes or cyber attacks. It bypassed everything. Checks, validations, dependencies. Just steamrolled through the alerts like a bulldozer. Jay clicked it without hesitation. "Boom," he said. I felt my gut twist. The dashboard turned green instantly. Every blinking warning, every alert, gone. To someone untrained, it looked like the system healed itself. Fixed, healthy, perfect. It wasn't. Those alerts weren't cosmetic. Every single one was tied to triggers, shift codes, warehouse timestamps, fleet rotation schedules. By approving all, Jay just told the system everything was fine when it was anything but. "See," he said, spinning toward Benny and Travis. "Clean as a whistle." They nodded, wide-eyed. Jay leaned back and stretched like he just landed a touchdown. "That's how you clean house." I didn't move, didn't say a single word, because I knew what was about to happen. Within an hour, forklift crews showed up to empty warehouses. No inventory, no shipping manifests, nothing scanned in. 3 facilities filed emergency support tickets, wondering who rerouted their deliveries and why nothing made it to the docks. Then payroll fired off. 2 parallel runs. 1 correct, 1 bloated. Thousands of dollars in double payments queued up. A bunch of drivers suddenly looked like they'd worked triple shifts across 3 states. By 3:30, one guy from routing flagged me down in a panic. "Rick, did we approve the wrong freight codes for Zone 6? Half the trailers didn't leave." I stared at him. "Ask Jay." He blinked. Didn't know what to say. He turned and walked off. Jay? He was on the other side of the building, strutting through HR, bragging about how he streamlined the load issue and optimized system latency. I could hear him down the hall. "Man, it's like clearing your browser history. You wipe it, it runs better." No one corrected him, no one stopped him. Winston wasn't even in the building, off at some investor lunch. By 4, I was back at my desk. Everyone was scrambling, calls flying, screens flashing new warnings. But now they were buried behind green tags that said, "Approved." The system looked clean, but the bones were rotting. And Jay thought he'd just saved the company. He didn't realize he'd pulled the pin on a grenade. I sat there, arms crossed, watching him take a victory lap. Because that click wasn't just careless. It was the trigger. The collapse had officially begun. Monday morning hit like a sledgehammer. I walked in, coffee in hand, and the whole Midwest terminal was already offline. Dispatch screens were black, of phones blinking nonstop, people pacing. And then I saw the video, one of the floor guys out of the Saint. Lewis Hubb had filmed himself waving a pay stub that showed 42 hours worked, 122 hours paid. "I didn't ask for this," he said, dead serious. "But they're gonna blame us when this crashes." Video was up on TikTok by 9:30. On Twitter by 9:45. By 10 o'clock, it hit 2 million views. Hashtag North Track Screws Workers. By noon, clients started pulling out. 3 major freight contracts gone in a flash. One was Titan Capital's warehousing partner. That deal alone, close to $300,000 a month. Union reps were on site before lunch, banging on HR's door and shouting about legal action. Somebody pulled the numbers. $820,000 in losses within 6 hours. I sat at my desk, just listening to the panic swirl around me, phones ringing, emails flooding in, supervisors yelling down hallways. Everyone had questions. Nobody had answers. Winston showed up around 1, red-faced and breathing hard, like he'd just run a mile uphill. Stormed through the operations wing like he was looking for blood. "Who did this?" he barked. "Who the hell sabotaged my system?" He burst into the IT bullpen and started grabbing monitors like he was going to find a saboteur hiding behind them. Somebody hacked us. Someone planted this. He called in the IT lead, had them trace the approval logs. I already knew what they'd find. Jay's name. Every single bogus green light traced back to Jay Grayer's ID. Time-stamped. Verified. They pulled the logs up on the big screen in the command room. Winston stared at it like he couldn't read. I was standing in the back, leaning against the wall, arms folded. No one spoke to me, but every single one of them looked in my direction. Winston turned around, eyes locked on mine. "This system was built on Rick's code," he said, loud, desperate. Like saying it out loud might shift the blame. Yeah, it was my code, but the logs didn't lie. Jay cracked first. "You told me to approve it all," he snapped. "You said clear the damn alerts and move forward." Winston spun on him. "I said clean it up, not burn it down." "You said it was old junk," Jay yelled, face red and sweaty. "You said Rick was hoarding info, and we had to modernize." People started shifting in their seats. Then one of the directors, Shannon from compliance, stood up and said, calm as hell, "We have him on video." She pulled up a security feed from Friday. There it was, Jay sitting in my chair, arms wide, telling Benny and Travis, "I fixed Rick's mess with one click." The room went dead quiet. You could hear the air conditioning hum. Jay looked around like he just realized the door was locked behind him. Winston looked like he'd swallowed a bullet. No more shouting, just silence. He turned to security. "Lock down the system." Now, but it was too late. Way too late. The damage wasn't just done, it was replicating. Every bad approval triggered another batch of screw-ups. Shipments that should have been stopped were already halfway across the country. Incorrect payrolls were sitting in employee accounts. Misrouted cargo was blocking warehouse access in 5 states. IT said reversing it would take a full rollback, maybe 3 days, if they were lucky. But no one even knew what to roll back to, because Jay hadn't documented a damn thing. They started yelling again. People on the phones trying to beg clients not to terminate contracts. Legal pacing outside the server room like they were bracing for subpoenas. I didn't say a word. I just stood there, watching the machine eat itself alive. Quiet, controlled, and completely deserved. By Tuesday morning, PR had their spin machine running at full speed. Press releases flew out. Carefully scripted statements. NorthTrack is experiencing a brief internal misalignment. We are stabilizing operations with the help of external experts. Right? Experts. They brought in a fleet of consultants, young, sharp-suited kids who looked like they were still paying off Ivy League degrees. First thing they did was push all the supervisors out of the conference rooms and tape printer paper over the windows. Like it was some CIA operation. One of them came over to my desk, tried to act polite. "Hey Rick, would you mind giving us a quick systems overview?" I didn't even look up. I thought I got phased out. He smiled awkwardly and walked off. A couple hours later, they had a meeting with Winston and the board. I heard the yelling from halfway down the hall. One of the consultants had called it straight. "This system's a hand-wired engine. Every part depends on a memory that's not written down anywhere. There's no documentation, no version logs, no continuity plan." Winston snapped back. "It ran just fine before Rick decided to coast." The kid didn't flinch. That's because Rick was the continuity plan. And still, Winston wouldn't budge. "We'll figure it out without him," he said. "I'd die before bringing Rick back into this company." That's when the room fell completely still. One of the directors pulled out their phone mid-meeting. Couple others checked their emails. Titan Capital, our biggest investor, had just dropped us, publicly. Said they had lost confidence in NorthTrack's leadership and long-term viability. Translation, we were burning. And they weren't sticking around to get scorched. The stock tanked, 46%. Gone in a single trading day. $500 million in company value just vanished. I sat at my desk and watched the company crumble in real time. Calls from vendors started turning aggressive, demanding answers, threatening lawsuits. Union reps sent over legal notices. Internal emails started getting flagged by legal before they even hit inboxes. The board held an emergency meeting that night. They told Winston to resign. He refused. They fired him. No retirement speech, no party, no handshake. Just a locked office door and a cardboard box packed by someone from facilities. Jay tried to play survivor, walked around with his tie loosened, eyes all red, saying stuff like, "I was set up," and "this whole thing was rigged against me." No one cared. No one believed him. The security feed didn't lie. Neither did the logs. He was the idiot who lit the match and dropped it into the fuel tank. A week later, both of them were gone. Winston, silent, no goodbye, no statements. Jay left with a whimper, escorted out by the same security guards he used to bark orders at. And North Track. It was a smoldering wreck. Departments collapsed in on themselves. Entire regions offline. We lost Seattle's freight flow for 4 days straight. New Jersey's distribution center locked down after someone sent double inventory to a facility that didn't exist anymore. Consultants gave up. Said every patch broke 5 other things. There was no logic left, no map, just a maze with dead ends and no exits. And all I did, the only thing I'd done in months, was stop helping. I didn't touch the keyboard. That was all it took. All those years they overlooked me, underpaid me, treated me like a cog in a rusted machine, thinking I was lucky to have a desk and a badge. A week after the dust settled, I got a call. Unknown number, Nashville area code. Guy on the other end said he was from CenturyLogics, a national freight optimization firm based out of Houston. Big-time players, real money. He didn't waste time with fluff. "We've been watching the situation at North Track. We know who kept that system running. I didn't say a word," he went on. Said they wanted to bring me in, senior systems director. Full control, full package, 6-figure salary. Health insurance that actually meant something. Said they weren't looking for someone shiny. They were looking for someone who knew how to hold the thing together when the shiny people burned it down. I signed the papers that night. No press release, no welcome post on LinkedIn, no corny live stream. Just a job, a real one. With people who understood the value of keeping the damn lights on. First thing I did, called the oxygen supplier, paid off my mom's rental for the year, in full. Then I wired $9,000 to Owen's welding program. No loans, no delays, just done. 2 things Winston Grayer tried to make impossible, and I never had to raise my voice once. I never went to the media, never sat down for some podcast to tell my truth, never leaked an internal email, never tweeted a single word. I just stopped helping, and the whole place fell apart like dry leaves. Because Winston and Jay thought they could gut the foundation and keep the roof, thought they could take the guy holding it all up and throw him in the trash like a worn-out part. But I was the foundation, the screws, the frame, and when I stopped holding it, it collapsed. They wanted legacy. They got a damn cautionary tale. Now, I sleep better. I don't check my phone at midnight anymore. I don't scan red alerts in my dreams. I wake up knowing I did the work, quiet, invisible work, that nobody clapped for, but everybody depended on. They wrote me off, then they wrote me back in. That's enough. Sometimes dignity doesn't come from applause, doesn't come from titles or streams or speeches. Sometimes it walks in through the back door after everything else burns down.